Has the sound okay? All right, we ready? Hi everybody, I'm the Minister for Essential Services. Today I want to reassure everybody that we have staff, personnel out dealing with the flooding event right across the Northern Territory. As we speak, there's still an ongoing response in Katherine, Palumpa and Daly River. All of those areas are affected as we speak. I also want to give an update on the water situation in Darwin. As we heard last night, there has been a shortage of water. What I want to do is reassure that we've had a number of personnel on site at the Darwin River Dam last night, and we have one pump back on operating at the moment. But the message that I need to give today is that we need everybody to restrict their water use until we have full operations back at the Darwin River Dam. So we do encourage people to reduce the amount of water that they're using. And I do want to commend IMPEX, who reduced their water usage by 85% yesterday, reducing staff and reducing the amount of water that they have been using. In fact, what they did do yesterday was stop drawing water yesterday, and I really commend the work that IMPEX have done. In regard to the weather, what I'll do is hand over to the Bureau of Meteorology to give an update on the weather.
Thank you, Minister. James Ashley from the Bureau of Meteorology. The low pressure system and trough that's been hanging around the top end for the last week continues to provide a focus for heavy falls. Overnight, in the last 24 hours, we've seen rainfall totals around 80 to 120 millimetres fall over the Katherine area, in the Daly River catchment, and also again in the Roper area. This has led to renewed rises across the river systems in the Northern Territory. We've seen a moderate level again exceeded at Katherine. We've seen renewed rises at Beswick, and the Daly River continues to be at major levels, and we're expecting the peak not until the weekend, and it's likely to remain above the major flood level for at least the next week. Looking forward, that low pressure system will gradually move to the southwest over the next 2 days, dragging the focus for those heavy rainfall to the southwest in the Gregory district. Today we issued a flood watch for the Victoria River as those heavier falls move into that area. Elsewhere in the top end, it's still going to be heavy thunderstorms on and off right across the next few days and through the weekend. So we're still a chance of seeing those isolated heavy falls in slow-moving thunderstorms up around the 100 millimetres or so. But that's the widespread heavy falls are likely to contract southwest with the low pressure system. I'll leave it at that and hand over to the Incident Controller. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Acting Commander Emma Carter. I'm the Incident Controller. I will take you to Katherine in the first instance. So in relation to our roads, we've had some good news. The Stewart Highway is now open from Darwin to Katherine, however closed from Tyndall RAF Base to Larrimah at this time. We will have further updates on that road surface and the condition and when that will be opened this afternoon. Katherine is faring well. We still have evacuation centres there with numerous people in those, and our NT schools still remain closed today, with the exception of 3 pop-up schools that we have at Katherine South, McFarlane and School of the Air, and they are for our students that are in the evacuation centres and any other children that wish to attend school at that time. I'll just move to Beswick. We're still monitoring Beswick and the flood levels there. However, we do have an emergency shelter open for community members, and also Mataranka still has an emergency centre operating for our displaced evacuees from Jilk-Mingan communities. So that is Katherine. I'll just move to Daly River area. Floodwaters are still up, and as the Bureau have said, expecting to peak today. We have been able to do a significant amount of work with animal welfare to attend to the animals in Daly River and Palumpa today. And also our survey rescue, so our impact assessment teams will be commencing work shortly there to see the extent of the floodwater damage and get some reports back to the EOC. Moving to just the Darwin River area. We have had several calls since Monday for assistance from residents within that area where NTES have attended and assisted some of those community members. Some also assisted themselves or were helped to safety by passers-by, and our friends and the local community out there all banded together and assisted with those as well. I just would like to remind people today that we have updated our Secure NT website with some further further phone numbers for people who need assistance in those areas. That is either 13444 if you do need police. However, the 1800 number and an emergency call centre has been set up in the EOC for NTES response. So that is just in addition to our emergency centre and to assist the community out there with flood-affected residents. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to John, Power and Water.
Thank you, Acting Commander. Yes, we have some good news. We've had a huge effort, as we indicated yesterday, to recover position at Darwin River Dam. To give you a sense of context, we've got 54 people dedicated to bringing the pump station back online, including 20 technical staff and contractors who worked through the night last night under floodlight in particularly horrendous conditions. What they successfully did was to get the generator back on, connect it to one of the pumps, and the pump has been running since that time. The good news on that is that it's now starting to provide water from the dam into the McMinn's water tank. The bad news is, or the unfortunate news is, consumption is still exceeding the amount of supply we're getting. To give you a sense of context, there are 4 pumps at the pump station, so we're only running 1 on a temporary generator at the moment. We've got 3 contingency plans which activated simultaneously, the intent being to connect a second pump to the overhead power that's, as I mentioned yesterday, is in place, and both pumps will be running off that as soon as we can have that done. Once we've got 2 pumps connected, that then provides enough output that exceeds the average consumption of water during the wet season. We would like to express our gratitude to the businesses, the Minister mentioned INPEX, but all of the businesses and the mums and dads who heeded our call and have conserved water. We do ask everybody to, while we're still only operating on 1 pump, to conserve the water that they consume, whether it's turning off the tap while you're brushing your teeth, turning off your reticulation or irrigation at home, having a 2-minute shower instead of the long luxury shower. We're working through getting those done as quickly as possible. One of the key benefits that we've achieved having got to this milestone is we will be rolling back the reduction in water pressure that we implemented yesterday to slow down the consumption of water at that point in time. So that's happening as I speak. Residents across Darwin will find that their water pressure will increase. We do ask all residents to continue to observe the Department of Health's alert in relation to boiled water. Significant work needs to continue over the coming days to finalise that work to connect the 2 pumps to the overhead power system. Whilst we're doing that work, we're continuing to source or maximise the amount of water we're drawing from the rural bore fields. We will continue to do that, but as soon as we've successfully connected the second pump to the overhead network, we can then reduce the amount of water that we're drawing from those bore fields, which will then potentially provide an opportunity to review, or for the Department of Health to review the boil water alert. We continue to cooperate with the Department of Health in providing information as we progress the work that we're doing. We'll continue to keep everybody updated and thank everybody once again for their support and their patience as we work through this unprecedented event. Thank you.
So when you say there hasn't been a sufficient drop in usage among residential, consumers? Can you tell us a bit more?
Across the board, we don't differentiate between the two. It's just we're seeing consumption has not dropped sufficiently to get us. Basically, what we're producing from one pump is being exceeded by the amount of water we're consuming across Darwin.
You said that you both mentioned INPEX had reduced their water use. Are there any of those major businesses, major corporations that have not reduced their water use?
We're working with all of our large consumers of water in person-to-person conversations and encouraging everybody to just keep reducing, scaling back as much as they can.
And is everyone listening to that advice and doing
Everybody's taken our calls and we continue to make calls to all businesses and obviously through, I think we sent out, it was in the order of 20,000 text messages to mum and dad residents who we have contact details for, reminding them of that opportunity to support us by reducing consumption. So we're hitting as many different media as we can to get the message out, and we're doing one-on-one calls with our big consumers of water.
Can you explain again just the practical impact of not reducing usage, just for people who might not understand why it's important?
It's important because at the moment we only have one pump running, connected. Until we've got redundancy and bring in place the second pump, we need to reduce consumption so that we're not exceeding the amount of water that we're extracting and getting into the water tanks.
What's your time frame on, first of all, getting the second pump up and running? What's the likely time frame on that? And what's your likely time frame on getting it all up and running?
Our priority is the contingency planning to get the second pump up and running or operational. At this stage, our estimate is for up to 5 days. We're obviously throwing everything at this to get it connected as quickly as possible. We hope we can do it sooner, but at the moment we're asking everybody to conserve their water consumption for that 5-day period.
And given that the boiled alert applies over that period, are you expecting that?
We'll defer to the Department of Health on the topic of boiled water, but until the department changes its alert, that will continue to apply while people are conserving water.
Okay, and can you explain, I guess, why we're having to boil our water again? Okay, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Paul Bootis, I'm the Chief Health Officer for the Northern Territory. We are in unprecedented times with the failure of the Darwin River Dam pump. That has led to Power and Water activating their emergency plans to activate the bore fields at McMinn's Lagoon and East Howard River. The concern was with those bore fields that they are close to residences that have septic tanks, and there is a possibility with a lot of water around in the wet season, a lot of water flowing, that bore field could be possibly contaminated. So as a precautionary principle, working very closely with our colleagues at Power and Water, we made the decision to institute a boiled water alert for the Darwin and Palmerston region. And that is a precautionary measure to make sure that we remove risk from the system. It has been a very trying couple of weeks, and the last thing we need on top of that is an outbreak of gastroenteritis to complicate things for residents of Darwin and Palmerston region. I can explain more about the boiled water alert. So as that emergency supply was brought online, samples were taken. That's a single point in time. And those samples were reassuring in terms of not revealing any gross contaminants of that water. However, as the flow has increased out of necessity to supply Darwin and Palmerston, still that risk remains. And that risk will remain until the Darwin River Dam pumps are back in service and reliable. And we have a clearance testing of the water that's supplied to the Darwin-Palmerston region. My understanding is testing has been taken today with the first pump coming online, and we expect those results before midday tomorrow. So that will give us some guidance about next steps. As far as the Chief Health Officer is concerned, we do not want a boiled water alert any longer than is needed. So we will be looking at those test results and removing the boiled water alert at the soonest, safest time, as guided by testing conducted by Power and Water.
And what likely timeframe have you been given for that?
So the testing's been done today.
In terms of, I guess, lifting the alert?
Yeah, so we'll be guided by the test results. So there's two scenarios at play here. When you're swapping and changing water supplies, there is a chance of contamination, and there's also need to flush out the system, and that's work, technical work that's underdone by Power and Water. So the best case scenario is that we get the testing back tomorrow that gives us great confidence that there's no contaminants from that reinstitution of the Darwin River Dam supply. And so the best case scenario would be around lunchtime tomorrow we should be able to make a decision. However, if there is contaminants in that water, we will need to test again, and that'll be another, say, 18 to 24 hours.
I think you said on radio this morning that you had a meeting at 9 o'clock yesterday about this issue. There wasn't a statement that went out, I don't think, until almost 1 o'clock. Was the water safe to drink at 9, 10 o'clock yesterday morning? And why the delay between the meeting and when that official communication?
Yeah, look, thank you for the question. And I think, as I expressed on radio this morning, I think you understand this is an unprecedented situation where we're all doing multiple tasks, working across multiple fields in this emergency response. And so there, inadvertently, when you're working across agencies, there can be delays, and that's really about getting the ducks lined up to be very consistent with the messaging. I would say this, that there was certainly Darwin River Dam good clean water in the system overnight, and so we can't give you a precise time when the bore fields came on, but I've already told you this morning that preliminary sampling from the institution of those bore fields was very reassuring with no significant contamination. However, that's only a point in time, so we're doing the right thing and the safe thing for Northern Territory residents of Darwin and Palmerston, and giving the community great confidence that when we lift that board water alert, it is safe to drink. There
was, I think, NT football NTs put out communication saying they're cancelling their games at Marara this weekend because of the contaminated surface and because of the boiled water alert. There are other sporting competitions that are planning grand finals, etc. this weekend. Is it safe under these conditions, given we've got contaminated grounds and a boiled water alert in place for those competitions to go ahead?
Look, my feeling is a bit of preparation here means all events can go ahead, and that includes cooking our meals at night or preparing baby bottles. What we need to do is to boil sufficient water, let it cool down, and then chill it if need be. So that's the safe measure to do. So it's up to those sporting codes if they think they can take those contingencies and that preparation work to ensure adequate and safe supply of hydration for their athletes.
And is there any risks associated with showering in that
No.
boiled water? That's perfectly safe.
That's fine as long as you don't drink it.
Can you also give us an update on the situation in Katherine? Is there a boil water alert in place?
There is still, and so Katherine is still in response mode, is my understanding. The levels are dropping, but we've heard from the Bureau this morning that this is still an evolving situation. We are working as NT Health as fast as possible to recommission our health services there, but you would understand we have to do our due diligence with safety and make sure our facilities are safe for our staff and our patients.
And a question for either you or the Minister, I just wanted an update on the Katherine Hospital and when I'm not sure whether that's appropriate for you or for
I can comment and say, look, we'll provide advice as soon as that comes to hand. As I said, our staff are working as fast as possible to bring that facility up to a serviceable standard. As you understand, it's been quite a challenge, and we've seen some heroic efforts, and we should be very proud of our Territory and broader health community for absorbing the pressure from decommissioning the hospital. We know we are under a lot of pressure on the Northern Territory, and I think it's been a wonderful team effort.
Oh, well, just one last one for power and water. It's obviously early days and you're in the thick of it, but what's being done to make sure that this flooding situation at the pumps doesn't happen again?
Our priority is to restore water supply, and so our focus is on the 3 contingency plans that we have in place to restore water to its normal levels. Once we get through that immediate focus, then we'll look at what are the mitigants and controls we can put in place at that site to prevent this happening again. Bearing in mind that it's an unprecedented event, nobody in Power and Water has any recollection of either the dam water being as high as it is or water breaching the area of the pump halls.
Can I just ask police about the Darwin River community? We spoke to a resident that said that a mother and 4 children were trapped on a roof and had to be rescued. Do you know anything about that, or can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we have. Yes, thank you. We have knowledge of that situation. However, that particular resident didn't call for assistance. We're of the understanding that passers-by assisted her and her children to safety. So, yes, that's all we have on that one. Thank you.
If the number has only just gone up on secure website, Secure NT website for people to call, how would they have known which number to call?
Sorry, so just to clarify on the emergency hotline that has been set up is to assist flood affected community members, so to provide them advice on what that looks like moving forward. For emergency assistance in situations like that is still 131 444. It will be either referred to any emergency response area, most likely NTES, to assist those people.
The residents out at Darwin River, some of them this morning have been saying that when that flash flooding hit on Monday, they didn't get any warning and they haven't had the same kind of assistance as we've seen in Catherine and other areas. Is there a reason for that?
My understanding that there was a flood alert for that area, as well as severe storm warnings alert across Secure NT and all of our Facebook media outlets, as well as ABC. So that information was provided as it came in from the Bureau through the Emergency Operations Centre.
How many properties have been affected?
That work is still ongoing, so we're doing assessments across Darwin River as we speak. So
How high is the flooding?
again, that assessment information is going to come to us. With the Darwin River residents, not all of them, as I've said, actually contacted any emergency services or required assistance, and I am aware, just like that mother and her children, that they didn't contact us, so we are unaware of the impact of the flooding for those particular residents. So I don't have specifics, but we are conducting that assessment and we'll have some results at a later time.
There was adequate warning for this flood event for both authorities and the residents?
At this time, yes, I think that's the case.
All right, thanks everyone.
Oh, sorry, we've got a few more questions. Is that right?
No, it's time for.
That's a lot going on, Mark.
Yeah, I realise that there's some people
For me?
need to be somewhere else. But
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll try and make it quick because this message goes out to the public as well. So we'll just try and work out what we want from the incident controller. Sorry.
I can continue for road reports. So there are still several roads closed in the Greater Darwin area, and as we're already aware, south of Catherine and also around our community areas. I'm just urging the public to please go to the Road Report NT website. We are diligently making sure that that information is current and up to date. So before you are planning to drive anywhere around the NT at the moment, as we've talked about these unprecedented flooding events, please go to that website for further information.
So I've just got some reporters in the field are wanting to know about rural residents from Cossack and the Rockhole community. How many helicopter food drops have been made for residents cut off by flooding on Clarina Road, and are there any more planned?
Yes, I don't have specific numbers of how many, but there have been numerous over the time since this event commenced, and they will be ongoing. Those food drops are continuing across the whole top end at the moment as we speak. So, yeah, that's ongoing.
I understand the levy bank is being sort of back up in Catherine, is that right?
I don't have specifics on that at the moment.
Okay, and then just back to Daly River, we've lost sort of the observations, I understand, but that's expected to peak.
It is expected to peak, and you are correct that the indicators aren't working. However, the Bureau have been able to give us a good indication of what those river levels are, and we've been reporting on those, but peaking sometime today.
And for the residents from both Daly River and Palum who are in Darwin, it's obviously must be quite mentally traumatic for them at the moment. I don't know if this is more of a question for government, but how are they doing? And are we going to have to shift them to another location? What's being done for these residents? And will they get sort of a visual of what's happening in their community? We haven't seen much about what this flood even looks like at Daly at the moment, and it's heading towards being worse than 1957. So what can you tell us?
Minister, would you like me to? Yeah, thank you. So I'll just, in relation to the evacuees that are currently in our shelters, we do have a lot of welfare and liaison officers working with those people to first identify what their concerns are and then attempt to alleviate some of those. You are correct about the vision of their communities at the moment. It has been quite difficult due to the substantial level of water that is around to be able to get those those aerial shots and get the survey rescue teams in to give them that information. We are working very closely with those people to, like I said, alleviate some of those concerns and get that information to them. Longer term, I can't give you any indication as yet because we haven't done that impact assessment. Once that's underway, we'll have a clearer idea.
Done. 5-second rule.
Sorry.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.